So today it's going to be a bit of a short video, mainly just updating everyone on the current meta regarding warrior legendaries. I've got a couple of questions on exploiter. I think people are starting to experiment with some of the other legendaries now that we're looking at. I think most people who've been capping Soul Ash probably have the 235 and then like a second legendary at 225. And then like next week that should be 235s, or if you've been saving them, roughly about I imagine you'll have enough to go from 0 to 235, about 5k. So I do think there's some really interesting things that have popped up here. To give a bit of background, we have seen, where is it? Unhinged, the arms legendary here, being sort of BIS for the first couple of weeks. I know a couple of warriors were playing Sephuz, but it seemed like, you know, all the top warriors, kind of apart from Smexen and a couple of orcs, were unhinged. The reason for that is when you sweeping strikes and you sharpen and do two stacks of overpowers, you can make these insanely big blade storms, which do four mortal strikes, right? Because the two mortal strikes that hit sweep as well, at random nearby enemies, and that was pretty insane. Especially in a melee cleave meta, I think Unhinged is really insane because you're always getting four mortal strikes, so that's insane amounts of value, and it gives you crazy burst on a group, right? When you pop Unhinged, you pop your spear down, you have heaps of mastery as well. Things just kind of explode with your Unhinged. But what I've seen more of recently is people looking at Sephuz. So Sephuz gives you 80 secondary stats, which I think is roughly like 2.73%. We'll just call it 3%. 3% bonus whenever you uh, interrupt or dispel, right? You're not really dispelling, or you stun something, right? And because your Stormbolt has like a 30-second cooldown, obviously you have kick as well. This secondary will probably be up most of the time, which means that you have, you know, 3% extra crit, mastery, verse, and haste, which is definitely nothing to laugh at. Like that actually would probably be somewhere along the lines of like a 10%, 8 to 10% damage increase overall. Maybe like the people who do Sims can correct me there, but I imagine to be about a 10% damage increase. Um, and obviously it has 50% uptime, so over a game you're looking at like 5% extra damage. Um, and if you look at the top part, it reduces the effectiveness of crowd controlling effects by 10%, which stacks with the orc racial, which means that when you get stunned, that stun will literally last like, what is it? If it's a 6 second kidney shot, 6 seconds goes to like 4.8, and then reduced by another 10%. I think that's a math. So you're looking at like exactly like a 4.3 second kidney shot, which is very short, right? Cheap shots will be even shorter. So I really think this is where the meta is going towards Sephuz for orcs. Especially as we get more gear, I can imagine Sephuz scaling really, really well. Uh, Especially Venthir Orc. Venthir Orcs with Sephuz and General Draven, or any of the kind of talents that make it really hard to peel you, will essentially be, unable to be peeled. Like you're reducing CC, you are unable to get stunned. Like stuns on a Sephuz Orc are such low value now. Um, and you have this extra damage bonus, which is really nice if you have super high uptime and you're just PvEing down a target. So I think as time goes on, if Venthyr really does look like the meta, if that single target meta is really forced out, and we'll see a lot of Sifu's orcs. Another reason for that is that in every season, I think at the start of every season, melee tend to be better because they don't need to scale necessarily to be good. Like obviously warriors scale really well, but like windwalkers, and rets and stuff tend to be really strong with like their base abilities. If you duel a 57 ret, he will still get you down to like 30% with his wings procs, right? Like it's very like flat damage that doesn't necessarily scale insanely well. What happens is though, like caster cleaves and melee casters tend to improve in value as the game slows down, right? Because casters scale well, you know, and when casters scale well, the value of cleaving is reduced a lot. You're not really going to have the best opportunities to spam unhinged. Like if you're only hitting one target with unhinged throughout the game, and people play around that, it's very very difficult for you to get good value from this, right? Um, two mortal strikes at a single target is still decent damage. Like you can still kill someone with that. But I'm starting to think that Sephuz Orc might be the way. It's definitely looking really, really good. My second warrior is an Orc now, so I'm definitely going to start saving my Soul Ash to start making this for my Orc, and building it towards that because I think this is super. I wouldn't say underrated, but I think the potential of it as we scale and get full gear is sort of understated. And we'll see this in the AWC, which legendaries people pick. My bet is on more Sifus, maybe 50-50 with Unhinged. So let's talk about like those are the two main options. Sifus for Alliance, I think Unhinged is still better if you're Alliance because you don't get that extra stacking 30% reduction on stuns. So I don't know. I'm still sort of undecided there. Like I do think Sifus would still be better for where is it? I do think Sifu still would be better against the caster cleave or like a RMP and stuff like that. Mainly because you want to use Bladestorm for utility, and when you have to use Bladestorm for utility, you essentially are just like foregoing most of the benefit from Unhinged. You don't have any big DPS cooldowns to stack up, and like four Mortal Strikes normally spread over two targets is only doing like if it doesn't crit, maybe 6k on each target, which isn't insane if you have no cooldowns up, right? Like that's kind of meh damage. I don't know if that's gonna. I do think you should probably look at crafting a Sephuz if you're Alliance as well, but the priority on doing so is a lot less. So I would say look into this, especially if you're playing caster melee. If you're playing melee cleave, I think you can still get away with unhinged. Um, let's look at some of the other legendaries that I think might be a bit underrated. This is interesting. I don't really like. It depends how much taking significant damage means. So taking significant increase your damage and healing by 30%, stacking to 9%. Now, if this is something that like, if significant damage is like 5% of your HP, this could be really good. But at the moment, I don't know. There's gonna have to be some pretty significant testing to sort of see what this does. But conceptually, this could really be decent because it essentially gives you like 9% extra offensive verse, and the uptime on that is like very, very high. So I don't know. I could see this being decent for single target in arena, but we'll have to see sort of what they mean by that. So in terms of the general ones, how I would use the general ones is you don't use them every game, you switch into them. So the first one I want to talk about, and what I suggest you prio as an off legendary, is Misshapen Mirror. So why Misshapen Mirror is so good is if you are versing a caster cleave or like a priest, I'll give you an example from my recent games. I was versing God Comp as Warrior Mage Paladin, and when we verse God Comp, we just the God Comp. So the main thing we want to do is stop their goes, and having that spell reflect, like for me to be able to intervene and overwatch spell reflect on my Paladin, right, which might soak a Mind Games or a um, Pyroblast, and then spell reflect right after it, like that means that I prevent a huge amount of damage, right? Because even just the two globals to break those two spell reflex is enough that my paladin can kind of get out of the stun and get away. So really look into this. The other thing to consider is this into caster melee. So I think I think it was Nick um, playing Misshapen Mirror against a Warrior SP. Warrior SP versus Warrior SP, HPAL. And Misshapen Mirror against those caster melee comps is really, really powerful just because you can prevent a lot of damage on yourself, like these dots and random sort of chip damage, but you can also like spell reflector mind games on anyone on like on any target. So if you miss the kick and you can spell reflect that mind games, it's absolutely massive, right? There's a lot of abilities in Shadowlands where if they get that ability off, you lose the game. So having another opportunity to stop it, especially if it's not on you, is really really powerful. So I think if you're looking to be safe and maybe you crafted Unhinged first and it's 235, you have some Soul Ash left. I would definitely look at crafting Misshapen Mirror. I just think that the value of it's very very high. You can play around so many different things with it, and it's still good. Before it was insane. Like it gave Sparrow Effect to everyone on your team, which is nuts, right? But now it's a bit more balanced. It applies to your nearest ally. So you're still gonna have to do a bit of micro to like go and get towards your healer and position towards your healer when you want to use Misshapen, or you're gonna accidentally use it on your off DPS. So I think there's still some really good opportunities with this, and even if like Aflock and SP become very meta classes, that Shadowplay comp, which I think is really really powerful, um, becomes super meta, we will definitely see less of Unhinged and more of Misshapen Mirror. The final one I wanted to talk about, well, the final two I wanted to talk about, which I think are relevant, is Leaper. I just don't think you really need that extra two charges. Like, this is really cool for BGs and general, like, if I'm doing quests, I'd craft Leaper. It's super nice quality of life. But whether you need it to stick to an Aflock is sort of questionable. Like, you probably shouldn't be extending that far to chase an Aflock down the whole game. Um, if it means like you're leaping three times for it and charging and doing, whatever else to get on top of them. So I don't know. If a lock's kiting you that much, you usually just swap and then you go back to the lock later. I think this is a bit overrated. Like when people look at the ability, they think it's insane, but in actual fact, it's sort of wasted. Like I don't think I use leap. If I had two charges of leap, it would be really nice. But having three charges, like the arena is only so big. It's a weird playstyle. I don't know. Maybe we will see people use this to really good effect. Um, Against something like double Aflock, maybe this is insane. In twos against like Aflock Resto Druid, definitely. And maybe even in like twos against double DPS that just kite your game, this could be really good. I don't know yet. I don't think this is probably something you don't craft next with your Soul Ash. I think Misshapen Mirror or Sephuz is better. And then the last one is Exploiter. Execute causes the target to take 25% more from your next mortal strike, stacking up to two times. So obviously this is Venthyr, right? Like you wouldn't craft this as Kyrian. It makes no sense. Which means that essentially condemn, because usually I think the rotation is you charge, you get Deep Wounds Mortal Strike on, and then you condemn twice, which means that your next Mortal Strike, if Mortal Strike does roughly 3,000 damage, um, will do 4,500 damage, and then that stacks with the overpowers, which are what 40% of 4,500, which is roughly 1,600 plus 4,500. I guess about like 7k, and then sharpen, which is another 25%, which means that you're hitting somewhere along the lines of like 8.7, 8.8k with your big mortal strike. Obviously, this scales well with the value of mortal strike, how hard it hits your AP. Um, and then if it crits, you're looking at like a 12k crit, which is pretty big. I do think that's really nice. Whether it's worth it is sort of questionable. Like, I feel like with Condemn Warrior, you're not lacking damage at all. if anything, you're probably lacking the ability to peel yourself. Like you might be more vulnerable to getting swapped onto. I guess with General Draven, though, you do have like that inherent like baseline peels to yourself. I'm not sure about this one yet. I think that when people have a whole bunch of Soul Ash, they're gonna start to have more fun with these legendaries and just make random ones and try them out. Um, I really just want to make a whole bunch of these and just, give them a crack, especially stuff like Leaper. Um, I want to make Enduring Blow. I want to try out all these different things, right? But I'm not sure on Exploiter yet. I don't think I don't think it's something you should probably craft now. I think you should probably go and grab your utility legendary, and after you have your utility legendary maxed out, you should probably look at Exploiter if you want to play around with that. Look at stuff you want to experiment with. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there is some crazy one-shot potential with this. I do think there is, but at the same time, like a 12k Mortal Strike that requires two condemns, two overpowers, sharpen isn't, and like a crit is probably not enough value for those GCDs. Like you can get Star Search for like 14k, right? So it's not as much damage as people think it is. I am I'm happy to be wrong. I think it'd be fun if it just one shot people, but yeah, we'll see on that one. So overall, I think if you're orc, you should really be prioritizing making Sephuz. Um, if you're not and you crafted unhinged, go for the um, Misshapen Mirror. And I guess like the point of this video wasn't necessarily to like say that there's some new crazy legendary you have to craft. It's more just I think people right now, obviously with the amount of systems in the game, right? You've got like conduits, you have Torghast, you have legendaries, all this different crap, right? Are feeling a bit insecure with their decisions because their decisions can feel bad. Like this is the issue with this, right? If you go and craft it, if you crafted like um, exploiter to rank 3, you just feel like an idiot. It does not feel good, like to do that. And then now you're wondering, even if you crafted the right one, oh, have I actually crafted the wrong one? Have I wasted all this time? I don't think the difference is as big as people think. Um, so generally, what you should probably do is just kind of follow the basic guidelines and then go for your utilities. Try and find ones that you enjoy and fit your comp. Um, and don't worry too much about which legendary you have on and what you need to get. I honestly think by the end of the season, we're gonna have all the legendaries maxed out. Not all of the random ones, but we're gonna have like Unhinged, Misshapen, and Sephuz maxed out, which will be your three that you'll probably go between. So the actual differences aren't as big as you think, right? There's only like a couple like minor changes that will happen. Um, and if you crafted one first and the other ones later, it's not going to make a big difference to pushing arena. Um, so hopefully this clears up some uncertainty that people are having around legendaries. If you want to, like, on a side note, now that finished talking about that, really appreciate all the support you guys have shown recently. It's absolutely bonkers. I think we've been going up to like I think at the start of this week we're at 150 subs or something, maybe a little bit more than that, and now we're at like 650. So essentially been getting like 100 subs a day. When I put out one of these new videos, they seem to just pop really, really well. Uh, Appreciate it a lot. Again, if you can subscribe and comment, like it, it's really good for the algorithm, so we can keep expanding this channel. Um, if you are interested in like warrior PvP content, you want to watch on stream, you want to contribute any points, or you want to ask any questions, stuff like that, follow the Twitch. I'm going to be streaming way more, especially on the weekend, so probably tomorrow when this comes out. Um, the other thing I want to point out is the Discord. We have a Discord community that I think we have 300 people in now. So that's been really, really awesome to have and to chat to everyone, answer your questions, just hear how you guys are going. What I'm going to try and do is get as many VODs as possible, and then maybe tomorrow we do like a or Sunday we do like a VOD review on stream, which I'll also record. So we'll look at like 4 or 5 different VODs and just break them down, which is something that I think I really want to have on stream too. So that covers this section. Legendaries, pretty straightforward still. Don't fuss too much. It's not a huge deal. Nothing's changed considerably, so you can still do whatever you want to do. If you have a 235 unhinged, you can theoretically just never do Torghast again. If you don't care too much about it, you'll still push rating as long as you have that. All right, guys, take it easy. Peace.